Here we go now with a review of the newspapers and major stories from Ghana and beyond. And we're joined by Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Sulemana Brima. Mr. Brima, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben, and thank you for having me.
I'll be coming back to you shortly. Let me just acknowledge Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They make it possible for us to bring you this segment every morning. And they're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. You can locate them in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Krodumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. The Stakrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Enzema. If you'd like to call them, which I suggest you do, you can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start for us of the news review. Now, Mr. Brima, I know you are in Sierra Leone currently on the back of the election they're about to have. Tell me, what is the situation there? What is the ambience in Sierra Leone? And what are people saying about the election that is coming up? I ask in the context of development vis-a-vis the sort of leaders we keep electing in Africa and how Africans generally are becoming exasperated, I should say, with misleadership. What have you gathered so far?
Well, Ben, so yes, you are right. I am here as part of the ECOWAS election observer mission. In fact, the elections have already been held. It was on Saturday, the 24th of June. A number of us were deployed into various areas across the country. I was in a place not too far from Freetown, the capital, but still in the provinces, to see the beautiful countryside of this great nation. The elections generally went on peacefully. Very, very peacefully, relative to the expectations that people have. But of course, as they would say, in terms of elections, it's usually not the voting day that is the problem, but the issues around coalition, voter tallying, and all of that, which is still something that is ongoing. Yesterday, we heard about a little bit of tension in town around the offices of the main opposition political party. But otherwise, so far, things have been quite calm. Elections here are quite tense. It's almost like in Ghana where you have two political parties. Here they also have two main political parties, even though there are others. There were 13 in all. There were 13 presidential candidates, but everyone knows that it's between the All People's Congress, APC, and the Sierra Leonean People's Party, the SLPP. The SLPP is the incumbent party, that's the party in government now, and the APC is the main opposition party, which was in power for some 5 years ago. So far, we haven't heard anything that is so serious, but the process is still ongoing. The Joint Election Observation Mission, ECOWAS, AU, UN, EU, will be meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock to put out their preliminary statement in terms of the observations and how things have gone. So, yeah, so far so good.
Interesting to hear, and also interesting to hear that it went more peacefully than hitherto imagined. That those are the sort of headlines we would want to see. But let's stay on the political front as we get into the newspapers. The Daily Graphic this morning saying, battle for supremacy, Akufo-Addo Mahama storm Assin North. And campaigning by political parties and candidates for the Assin North parliamentary seat reached a crescendo yesterday with the involvement of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and former President John Dramani Mahama. The two indeed added weight to their respective parties' appeal for votes before the curtains on the campaigning were lowered yesterday. Now, in what looked like a dress rehearsal for an anticipated keen campaigning towards the 2024 general election, the Assin North by-election occasioned by the eviction of the National Democratic Congress's James Jachi Kwesen following a court application over his allegiance to Canada has become a contest too close to call. The hectic and intense campaigning is understandably a desperate attempt by the two parties to hold on to any available seat in Parliament as they battle for control over the almost evenly balanced legislature. Long convoys went in and out of the constituency to nearby Assin, where many of the politicians have pitched camp. It goes on and on, but in terms of vote buying, despite allegations of widespread vote buying, some residents said they would vote according to their conscience. Quoting some of them, they say, "We know whom to vote for. Let them do what they want to do, but we know what is good for us," one resident voter said. Another said, "We have heard that some things are being shared, but those sharing the things are giving them to the people they know. We also will do what we have to do." Ejayao, a voter resident at Assin Praso, said. It could go on and on. It talks about the different incidents. And curiously, I heard Mr. President there stating that, look, Jachikwason is not being prosecuted. I have no hand in this. You know, the NDC has alleged that that is the case. And he says it is merely the law taking its course, and that what happened to Adamu Sakande is what is happening to James Jachikwason. But of course, we know that there are some disparities, but we'll leave that to the courts to deal with. Your thoughts on tomorrow's election and the way the two parties, NDC and MPP, have conducted themselves?
Well, so far I haven't heard anything about, violence or intimidations and so on. And it is natural to expect that the two leaders would be in the constituency to support their respective political parties. What is certainly of concern is the level of money that is being used in the constituency and the whole tendencies of vote buying. I think that is what is eventually going to destroy our democracy. And if there is one critical thing that we all have to be concerned about, it is the level of money in our politics, because that is what then leads us to the bad governance that we have and the corruption that we have. Because if this is one constituency and a lot of money is going into it, at the national level, it will be the same. And people then get into power and they have to recoup back whatever money they put out there. And that is really the cause of the corruption that is destroying our country. Unfortunately, the parties do it with impunity, they do it with disdain, and they do it without shame. Sometimes I wonder that the president is fully aware of what is going on in there in terms of the expenditure and the monies and the items that are being shared. He's okay with it. The former president Mahama knows about how much is being distributed to people, the items that are being shared, and he is okay with it. What kind of democracy are we building? It's no longer about, the convictions, about issues, about policies, about the quality of candidates. It's about who pays more. Yesterday, I was reading a poll that has been conducted by, I think the group is called Info Analytics or so. Right. And there was one particular question about if you were to be given some inducement to vote for a particular candidate, what would you do? And overwhelmingly, the response was that I would take it and vote for whoever I'm being asked to vote for. That's about, I think it was around 78% of the people saying so. Those who were saying, well, I'll take the money and then vote according to my own conscience, was around just about 16% or so.
So in other words, you're saying that those who would be manipulated by these benefits are in the larger community, basically.
Exactly. And so that is the trouble that we have. So it's not about the quality of candidates. It's not about the quality of the messages that are being put out there. It's not about the campaign message. It's not about ideas. It's about who is paying more. And you see, you can't blame the voters, because at the end of the day, they vote for people, they go and they don't see any development. And then shamefully, when there is a by-elections like this under all regimes, then they go in there and then start to implement some development projects in a very shameful way. But they would turn around and defend, oh, it's not because of the by-elections, as if they are dealing with animals and not human beings with brains. Sometimes that is what I wonder. You are dealing with human beings, matured adults, who know and have conscience. And then they would confidently say, oh, we are doing this road or we are doing this electrification project, not because of the by-elections. We would have done it anyway, and so on and so forth. So, well, for me, that is what we found ourselves in. The most important thing is not to have violence, and free, fair, and peaceful election is conducted. Assin North is not a stronghold of either of the two parties. And so it certainly will be keenly contested, and we'll look forward to the outcome.
Right. Let's get into some other stories on there. There's also Bawumia cut sought for construction of Ability Village. 3 Dabwasi students drown after swimming. And then there is Graphic MD receives Outstanding CEO Award. Let's get into some of those stories now. Let's start from page 16. So 3 out of 7 first-year students of the Dabwasi Senior High Technical School last Saturday drowned while swimming in the flooded river Subri. The 7 students, all male boarders, allegedly snuck out of the school's premises for the ill-fated swimming expedition. Now, as of press time yesterday, 2 of the bodies had been retrieved from the river and deposited at the Efiankwanta Teaching Hospital morgue, while the 3rd remains missing. Torrential downpours in the western region and nearby areas have caused various river bodies in the region to swell, flowing at high current and rendering many in the communities homeless. A very sad development there. On the next page, page 17, NPP presidential primary, 10 file nominations. And we know them. We have Alan Chemating, we have Kennedy Ejapong, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, Bwachi Japong, Dr. Uswefri Akoto. There's Joe Gate, Kwabene Japong, Dr. Kofi Konedu Apreku, Francis Adainimo, and Kojo Nsafwa Poku. Let me just add this other story to it before we get into other stories or other papers. So there is Bawumia cut sought for construction of Ability Village, and the Vice President has said the government is working on a policy to give faith-based organizations that meet a particular threshold in terms of provision of social services some incentives to empower them. He acknowledged the enormous roles FBOs continue to play in the area of education, health and care for persons with disabilities, among others, to improve the standard of people in society. And tied to that, Catholic bishop bemoans Pentecostalism's influence on the church. Any quick reactions to these stories, Suleimana?
Well, it's always great to hear about projects that are coming up to help improve the lives of people. And so, yes, if a sword is being cut for some development initiative, that is certainly great. The issue about the drowned students is really unfortunate and a very sad development. When things like this happen, you immediately can think about the parents of these students. Unfortunately, it wasn't a case of they, it's not a case of they trying to get to school or anything. This was just they themselves trying to experiment or go on an expedition, and this unfortunate incident has happened. Condolences to the family. And I believe that this will be a lesson for other people so that we don't have a repeat of this unfortunate incident. The issue about faith-based organizations, yes, we are a country that is quite religious, Islam, Christianity, and all of that. Well, I always say that unfortunately it appears that as these religions grow in our country, and you would have been expecting people to then conduct themselves in really morally upright ways, it appears that we are witnessing the opposite. The more people claim to be going to churches and mosques, the more acts that are, I would say, unreligious are happening. And I don't know whether indeed our churches and mosques are doing what they have to do in terms of the inculcation of the ideal moral attitudes and values that our people must have. One of the biggest challenges we have is the issue of the moral decadence. You don't know who to trust. People will not tell the truth. Everyone is trying to cut corners. everyone is trying to make money as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, that is what is going on. In fact, I know that within the MPP NDC, various religious groups are trying to push candidates. In terms of churches, we have individual churches that are backing particular people for possible running mate slots. Maybe eventually these are stories that we will tell, but that is how far we are going. People would want their church members to be vice president, to be president. It is not bad, but the way it is being done, for me, is what is of concern. But we cannot also say that, therefore, people shouldn't be religious. We would only urge our religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, to really try to ensure that the right attitudes and values are being inculcated in their members, members of their congregations.
Right. Let's wrap on the international front and move quickly to other papers. And interesting things have been happening in Russia on the back of the Wagner Group and its what Putin calls treasonable actions. Now, on page 9 of the Daily Graphic, China expresses support after Russia aborted mutiny, and Russia said on Sunday that China had conveyed a message of support to Russia's leadership in its efforts to stabilize the domestic situation after Saturday's aborted mutiny by the Wagner Group of heavily armed mercenaries. Now, there's a shock to everyone on the back of this latest development, and they took some 2 cities to be specific. I pictured here Yevgeny Prigozhin. He is the head of the Wagner Group. And I want to know what your reaction is to that, because President Putin has said that Russia will implode if there is no unity from their front. But then there's also this story, curious one. 101 people and a dog vie for Toronto mayor. And according to the story, Toronto will soon decide who will be its next mayor after revelations of an extramarital affair pushed the city's longtime leader out of office. Now, there is no shortage of candidates to choose from. In fact, a historic total of 102 names will be on the ballot, including Molly, the dog. Now, the 6-year-old wolf husky canine and her owner, Toby Heaps, are running on the promise to, quote, stop the salt assault on city roads during the winter. Suleimana, a dog is contesting for mayor in Canada. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's really about some symbolism rather than being taken on the face of it as a dog contesting for the mayoral role in Toronto. I think it's just some acts of symbolism that is taking place. Of course, in these parts of the world, people contest for these positions for purposes of the honor and for purposes of the the honor of being of service to their people. And that is why they get into the position and, something happens and they easily resign because they are not in there to make money. In our, contrary to our case where people get into this position and it's about making money and stealing from the people. And so for me, even if there are 1,000 people, it's about the management of it. At the end of the day, whoever gets it, we see it as an honor to serve and rather than an honor to steal from the people, as we do experience in our part of the world. Russia, the development in Russia, I think it's quite surprising that this thing would have happened in Russia. Certainly, it is something that would have some implications on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and it's certainly something that has deeply embarrassed President Putin. Undermined his standing and authority as he would want people to see him. And it then reminds me of Adani Best's song on Jatabi,
Jatabi Ole.
Exactly. So when you get a tiger or a lion and you feel it's a kitten, it's a young one, and you nurse it to a point. If you're not careful, that same animal will devour you. Because the leader of the Wagner Group happened to have been Putin's chef before.
He is literally Putin's right-hand man.
Exactly. But then, as I said, if you go for Jatabi, when it grows, it may likely devour you. And that is exactly what we are witnessing in Russia. It's unfortunate for Putin, but as I said, it will have some implications on the situation in Ukraine, which we all pray for a resolution so that all these claims about the implications and impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on our economies would be alleviated so that hopefully our economies will get better.
All right, let's get into other papers now. And the Daily Guide newspaper says, slain Majwa buried. It has to do with Inspector Ahmed Chubesi, who is facing court processes, and he has pleaded not guilty on the back of that, well, the demise of the lady Majwa. NPP vibrates as Jogate files for flag bearer. This is refreshing. It's almost always been Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia this, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia that. Of course, it's a private newspaper. But today, we see a headline talking about another flag bearer contesting for the NPP's flag bearership slot. Chachu's allegation against AG irrelevant. That's according to the court. And then Bawumia cuts short for PWD's Empowerment Center. And Accra roam to promote arts, culture, and education. Let's get into the stories now. We'll start from page 3. And the national headquarters of the ruling NPP and its surroundings came to a complete standstill on Saturday, June the 24th, 2023, as Jogate turned up to file his nomination forms to contest the Elephant Party's upcoming presidential primary. Gati arrived at the Asylum Down headquarters of the NPP in the company of well-wishers, including his wife and seasoned lawyer, Efua-Gate, who has also been a member of the party since 1992 and was part of the team led by President Akufo-Addo, which also included Jogate, Philip Addison, and Alex Quader. Let's look at the legal dynamic to the Chachu concern. Now, an Accra High Court has dismissed what it described as irrelevant claims made by private legal practitioner Chachu Chikata against Attorney General Godfrey Adame, purporting to be prejudicial to the trial of deposed Member of Parliament for Assin North, James Jachi Quayson. Now, Mr. Chikata, while moving a motion last Tuesday asking the court to vary its decision to conduct the trial on a day-to-day basis, relied on a supplementary affidavit which sought to bring to the attention of the court alleged prejudicial statements as well as alleged insulting comments made by the AG against the accused persons. Now, the court, presided over by Justice Mary Anzu, in a ruling dismissed Mr. Chikata's alleged prejudicial statements made by the Attorney General as not relevant to the issue and could not constitute grounds for it to vary its order to hear the case on a daily basis. So, according to the court, it's not relevant to the issue, but whether or not they were in poor taste, that's a different matter altogether. Let me just add maybe something from... So, on the international front, Uganda plans to raise the drinking age to 21. And, of course, where you are, Sierra Leone election, country awaits results in tense poll. Any quick reactions?
Well, the NPP contest for presidential in the flag bearership is getting quite interesting. And again, I speak to friends within the party, and you are told who pays how much and who is really paying well and who is not paying well to delegates. But we would still keep a close eye. I would wish that the media would do more than we are doing in terms of basically telling us what the candidates are doing and who has filed and all of that, to doing more analysis about these individuals. Who are they? What have they done? What positions have they held? How did they perform? What was their track record or is their track record, and so on, to elevate the conversation a bit. Yes, it's an internal party contest, but at the end of the day, they are seeking to become leaders of the country. They are not just basically seeking to lead their political party, but the intention ultimately is to become the leader of the country. And therefore, persons who contesting, we need to know more about them. We hear about Kennedy Japan. Yes, okay. What is he involved in apart from being in Parliament that we know? We are basically told, oh, he's a rich man What are his businesses? What does he do? I'm not saying that is a claim that is false, but we need to know more about them. Their great minister, Uso Friyakutu, is running. What has he done? He was given some, one of the crucial areas of our economy and our country. How did he manage that? Planting for food and jobs. How much went into that, and what has been the outcome? What has been the result?
Right.
So I think it's important that the media would do that kind of analysis rather than basically telling us where a candidate is and what they are doing and so on and so forth. Of course, as I said, Sierra Leone, citizens are keenly awaiting the formal declaration of results and hoping that everything will go peacefully as it has been so far. Yeah, those are the comments that I would make.
All right, let's get ready to wrap with some of these stories, but I just want to dwell briefly on the Daily Guide still. 6 Chinese grabbed for Galamsey and 7 illegal miners, including 6 Chinese nationals and 1 Ghanaian, have been arrested for engaging in illegal mining, also known as Galamsey. The illegal miners were reportedly apprehended during a swoop by the Operation Halt 2 team in the Bekwai Forest Reserve enclave in the Ashanti region last Friday. I keep asking myself, how do these Chinese get into the country? How are those excavators conveyed? How come no one sees anything until they are in our forest reserves actually polluting? See something, say something. I guess no one sees anything. There's also on page 13, producer price inflation hits 30.3%. And the government statistician at the Ghana Statistical Service, Professor Samuel Kobana Enim, has indicated that the year-on-year producer price index for May 2023 is 30%. This rate indicates that between May 2022 and May 2023, the PPI increased by 30.3%, representing a 4 percentage point decrease in producer inflation relative to the rate recorded in April 2023, which was 34.3%. And the Finder newspaper says, YEA graduates 500 prisons office assistants. And there is Opoku will serve better. Nanado rallies support for candidate. Let me just add this so you can just respond to all of them together. CD posts positive outlook. This is Economy Times. And job creation a priority of government. Any reflections on any of these stories? And then we can say goodbye.
Galamsey remains a major challenge for our country. One of the things that was glaring for me moving across different areas in Sierra Leone is how clear the rivers that you cross look. And as a Ghanaian, the contrast was so clear that, okay, this is a fantastic river. This is what water bodies are supposed to look like, as opposed to what we see in Ghana, those muddy gray scenes that we see when you cross our rivers. And you ask a fantastic question, how do these Chinese get into the country, and how do they get into the forest reserves with the excavators to do what they do? How far are these forest reserves from the various communities? How do they get these machines into the forest reserves without, the communities seeing, without the assembly members, the chief executive, and so on? Why don't they, get to know about these until the devastation is caused? But I believe the answer is that in our country today, everything is about money. If it's about money, it's okay. You can do whatever you want, so long as I would benefit, or he would benefit, or someone else will benefit. That's okay. As Otumfo said once, how come the chiefs are unaware of these developments in their areas?
Right.
So for me, as I said earlier, in terms of the role of religion and all of that, we've gotten to a point where everything is about money. And
right.
People take money and do just anything. That for me is really very unfortunate. On the economy, inflation and all, I think we should admit that it's a global phenomenon. One of the biggest challenge here for the people of Sierra Leone is the economy and how dire it has been over the last 2 or so years.
Right.
Of course, there are countries that have managed themselves well, and Ghana should have been part of those countries, given the endowments that we have.
Right.
Unfortunately, we couldn't manage ourselves in ways that would get us out of the situation. So it's really unfortunate, but I hope that the future becomes better.
We all hope that, and we wish you the best, Suleimana, as you continue to stay in Sierra Leone. Hope to see you back soon.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
All right. Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, joined us there for the conversation. But today is a big day. I met him just a short while ago looking all dapper. Our very own Fentuo, Tahiru Fentuo, is celebrating his birthday today. Wonderful gentleman, fine guy at his work when it comes to sports. Fentuo, we celebrate you today. May God keep blessing you in every way. And we also have Ivy Jedu Afeni of MTN. Here's wishing you a happy birthday, good health, and God's blessings on you. Age gracefully. Love from Daniel, Mamiepia, Aso, and Irabna, and Paulina of MTN. All of them wishing you the very best. As we wrap, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's also Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade Anaje State Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanso and Siama and Zima. If you'd like to call them, which you should, the numbers are 0244 867 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of sports up next Tuesday.